Hi lovelies! So yesterday I went to London with Scope, the disability charity, to go to the Disability Hustings. I don't know the sign for that. It was a political thing. Basically, each of the three main political parties in Britain sent a representative to answer questions from an audience of disabled people about what each party is going to be doing to help disabled people and also their policies. I found it so incredibly interesting because obviously when there is an election, you want to know the specific policies that are going to be really important for you. And mine are obviously like disability, gay rights. I think maybe I got kind of angry and frustrated, but at the same time I wanted to cry, and in fact I did cry. I'm not going to cry in this video though, because that will be the second video this week that I have cried in. So here's a little snapshot of the day, and then afterwards I'm going to be outlining for you what I learned.
Hello. How did you find it? It was very informative in a sad way.
I'm half like fired up and really angry, and half just like really sad.
I'd like more to talk about social issues. Yeah. We talked about social care, but not about how each parties are going to be changing maybe the rhetoric they use in order to combat social stigma. Yeah. That was completely left out today.
Also, I didn't notice, but I look a bit too Snow White today. That wasn't really my intention.
So, I'm not going to be signing in this section because I don't know a lot of the very technical words and I don't want to get them wrong. But there are closed captions, so please hit the CC down there. I think the reason that I became so incredibly frustrated by the day is just that surely this should be sorted by now. It seems so simple and so obvious. There are a wide variety of disabilities and there are a huge number of disabled people. 1 in 6 people in the UK have a disability. And how should they be treated? Considering everyone is different, probably with different disabilities and the disabilities affect them differently, I guess they should be treated as individuals. I also guess that they should be treated with some kind of compassion and care. Although this video is going to be apolitical because I think you should make up your own mind, I'm not in a position to tell anyone else who they should vote for. That is, I always feel like that's wrong, really. Unless I am going to become your MP, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I did find it a little bit confusing that Penny Mordaunt, who is the Conservative Minister for Disabled People, didn't really receive any claps. So the Lib Dems sent Baroness Brinton and Labour sent Kate Green. Baroness Brinton, by the way, amazing. She's a fabulous human being and the first wheelchair user to lead a political party in the UK. Clearly the woman knows what she is talking about. And then Kate Green, who is for Labour, has worked in a variety of different roles. And these two women gave some amazing answers, really clear, really concise, and very kind. And that seems like a strange thing to say. It seems like you shouldn't have to say be kind to people when it comes to the way that they are assessed, for instance, for benefits, making sure that people get what they need, and helping people get into education and employment if that is what they are able or want to do. So they got a lot of claps. Many rounds of applause. And Penny Mordaunt did not. So the way that it was run yesterday was we talked about 3 areas. Welfare, as in benefits, social, as in social care, who is actually looking after you, and employment. Being your own independent person, it's very important. However, I'm going to talk about it party by party, because I think that's a slightly easier way. Okay, I have chosen these in a random order, 1, 2 and 3, so it's fair. And first off, we're going to start with Labour. Things Kate Green highlighted about Labour is that they're very interested in protecting the interests of disabled people using the Equality Act. Independence, safety and living free from fear should be things that the benefit system guarantees. Disabled people also need access to paid work, and an education system that works for disabled people is vital. One thing that I really appreciated that they raised was about the public space and how it's not always friendly for disabled people. We're thinking about transport here, getting around in cities. I know we live in England and we've got a lot of cobbled streets. It is genuinely sometimes a little bit like Harry Potter. However, it's very important that for people to participate in the public space, they actually need to be able to literally access it. When it comes to taxes, Kate Green got a rather large round of applause for mentioning that Labour would like to scale back the taxes on disabled people. Why? Because being disabled costs a hell of a lot more. They would also like to get rid of the bedroom tax. Yeah. Okay, so the bedroom tax means that people receive less housing benefit if their house is judged to have one or more spare rooms. Now, this greatly impacts disabled people because you might have an overnight carer who is only sometimes there. Is that a spare room? Or is it not? There might also be equipment issues. Where are you storing your equipment? I know, it seems strange to think that you need extra equipment when you're disabled, but genuinely, you do. People stood up and asked questions. These were, unfortunately, they ran out of time, so they couldn't actually take questions from the floor, except for the ones that had been pre-approved and arranged. Anyway, one of the most moving questions was a chap who has motor neuron disease, and he asked, why do people get reassessed when they have a condition that is never going to get better and they're already at the maximum entitlement? The only way that that could go is down. So people are clearly assessing them, hoping to be able to give them less money. What a horrible, stressful thing for a person to have to go through. I know myself, it's absolutely awful sitting in front of someone and having to explain your condition and get questions like, is it going to get better? Are you going to die from this? Will it get worse? And exactly how? If you've ever had to stare someone in the face and explain how your physical ailments are going to get worse and you're eventually going to die, you will know. Pretty shit. Both Labour and the Lib Dems said that they would end assessments for people with long-term health conditions. One thing that Kate highlighted, which I think is really important, is access to work. Access to work is a fund that helps disabled people get whatever it is they need to be able to go and do their job. The money is actually paid to the employer, not to the employee. If you, for instance, are deaf and require an interpreter, the money is paid straight to the interpreter. It doesn't go to the disabled person at all. However, access to work, as I am aware of it, and probably if you talk to any disabled person, they will tell you that you will always get half of what you ask for. Always. And also, access to work is not something that is promoted. It's not something that they tell you is even an option. I only heard about it through a friend who does interpreting and is paid by Access to Work for some other people and was like, hey, this would probably be really great for you. Had anyone told me before that point? No. Labour have pledged to put more money into that pot for Access to Work, and hopefully that will help more disabled people find better employment that suits them. Kate also highlighted that Labour would like to improve access to justice for disabled people who have been treated unfairly at work or at home, roundabout, which has been greatly affected recently by cuts to the legal aid fund. Because, you know, poor people, why not kick them when they're down? In summary, I would say that Labour's position is all about maximising the participation of disabled people in everyday life and making their rights a reality. Number 2, we're going to be looking at the Liberal Democrats, who were represented by Baroness Brinton. I felt, and I'm pretty sure the majority of the room also felt, that as a disabled person, one of the few disabled people in Parliament, what she had to say was incredibly, almost held more weight. I'm going to hit you with some facts now. Boom. Roughly 16% of the population is disabled. There are more disabled people than there are gay people. However, only 1% of MPs are disabled. Welcome to the most underrepresented group in society. And Baroness Brinton was talking about how there are major problems that need to be tackled in the representation of disabled people, in the access of disabled people to work, to education, to public life. She mentioned how, since she uses a wheelchair, her entire party have really had to rethink now where they hold meetings, because they can't hold a meeting without her. Accessibility seems like such an obvious thing, doesn't it? But yet. Baroness Brinton mentioned that a friend of hers, a fellow MP, was not able to run this time because he needs a BSL interpreter, and our current government have chosen not to reopen the fund that pays for access for disabled MPs. Under the Lib Dems, BSL would be recognised as an official language. Things that were mentioned include scrapping benefit tax, scrapping bedroom tax, and much like Labour, let's not tax disabled people, whose lives are pretty expensive anyway. And also looking again at the closure of the Independent Living Fund. Under the Lib Dems, they would also get rid of the PIP capability assessment because there are a ridiculous number of assessments. Anyone who doesn't know, PIP is the Personal Independence Payment, which has replaced the Disability Living Allowance, which pays a certain amount of money to disabled people. The money is based on the disability that they have, and it's not means tested, so it doesn't matter whether you are a millionaire, because being disabled will just cost you more. I recently went through my own PIP assessment, and it genuinely is quite horrible. You have to write down all of the things about yourself, the ways in which your disability affects your life, your pains, your difficulties. They ask you really intrusive questions, like really, really intrusive questions. And there is this constant state of fear within you that they will, despite the fact you struggle so hard and you need help, that despite that they will say, oh, but not enough. You're not struggling enough. And then they will take everything away from you that helps you, and then you'll just die. And I'm not even being hyperbolic here, because lots of people have had their DLA, PIP, taken away, and then they've died. So, and the assessors are all people who work within the medical profession that the government then contact and say, hey, could you be an assessor and go and talk to disabled people? I had an assessor who at least had a knowledge of one of my disabilities. I have 2 genetic issues. And he had quite good knowledge of one of them, completely understood the myriad of ways in which it affects you. I have mixed connective tissue disorder, which isn't just about, oh, your joints hurt a bit. It's so much more than that. It's about, oh, and sometimes your internal organs just don't. They're like, no. He understood how living with pain every single day has a very big knock-on effect. But most people who have an assessment, their assessor has no idea about their condition, has no idea, does not work in that field. It's a rheumatologist and they're going to go and see someone with mental health issues. Do they know anything about that? No, they don't. No. That's not a fair and proper assessment, for Christ's sake. She would also reverse cut the employment support allowance, which is the amount of money that is paid to disabled people who cannot work. Back before PIP, on DLA, you could get an indefinite award. And that means, this is it, you're ill for life. This disability is always going to affect you. There's no point in ever coming back and being like, hey, still got cerebral palsy? Oh, well, you do. Unfortunately, on PIP, that's not the case. They're going to come back and check. So, in summary, points of interest were changing cultural attitudes of people towards disabled people, vital, turning around cuts that have affected disabled people, ensuring more support for carers, making cities, shops and public spaces accessible. And finally, moving on to Penny Mordaunt, who came from the Conservatives. Penny pointed out that there is no group in society who is more discriminated against. Important points from the Conservatives, that disabled people need to be able to make and own a home, for which we need to build new homes and make sure that they are accessible. A greater accessibility to public buildings. We need to review regulations for licensing, planning and parking. Disabled children to be better served by education, health and welfare. And all of these things require investment and a stronger economy. One thing the Conservatives talked about that I thought was really interesting and quite important was for the welfare system to learn from the healthcare system. Yes, because if you're assessing someone to find out whether they have a disability, why do you need to constantly be badgering this disabled person? So her idea would be for an almost passport type thing, where information about a disabled person is stored in one place that healthcare can access, but also that welfare can access. Genius. Actual government working together. It's going to seem quite strange, but sometimes I wish I had a disabled card, that I could hold it up, because I'm aware I have an invisible disability and you can't always tell that something is wrong with me. Maybe I'm in town and I've got 5 meters of walking ability left in me. So then we get on the bus, and obviously I need to sit down. So we take one of the disabled seats because that's allowed. And then, oh my God, the looks. Oh, how dare you be sitting there? Oh, young thing like you all should just be standing. No. So if I had a little disabled card, I'd just like pull it out. Hi, disabled. And I hate filling out forms where I have to list everything that's wrong with me because it's so depressing, and then it takes like a week in which I have to watch Fast and the Furious a lot and read some Buffy fan fiction to feel really happy again. Conservatives also agree that we need to stop assessing people who have long-term health conditions. Yay! If you'd like to stop that last week, that would be great. One thing I disliked, however, was she talked a lot about money, about how the economy needs to be strong in order for these things to happen, and yet then on the other hand she talked about how she has the largest budget of any of the departments. It's like, well, maybe stop using that money to reassess people. I also wasn't too keen on, she talked a lot about bringing in the third sector, as in charities, which smacked of privatisation to me. And the idea that charities should be coming in and filling these gaps where government used to be and now, because of cuts, have drawn back from. And I really don't think that that's right. Charities aren't there to fill those holes, to do the basics. Charities are there for the extras. The most important thing that I really took away from yesterday is that I almost don't care who you vote for. I just care that you vote, that you make sure your voice is heard. And it's too late now, but for next time, apply for a postal vote, which makes sure that on the day, if you're not feeling up to it, if you're not feeling great, you don't have to get out of bed and go to the poll station. You will be able to vote from home. Or you're allowed to get someone to vote in your place. They will go for you and they can do it. And there you go. If you have a carer or a family member who you really trust, that is an option for you. Then please do it. It doesn't matter. Just vote. Just let your voice be heard. Decide who you think follows your views on these issues and ruddy vote. Ruddy vote for them. That's all there is to it. Now get down in those comments and tell me that you voted.